That which has been manifested shall be manifest. A critical essay by me, Trishula 10K. The best manifesting coaches are the ones who are abjectly opposed to any nonsense deemed to be spiritual. I'm writing the script, and spiritual is very aesthetic when put into quotes. But what, just what, does spiritual mean anyways? It's some hogwash fool's word that can be distilled to mean what? Feel better? Half that baloney is first semester AP Psych anyways. Spirituality as a concept just seems like religious dissidents deluding themselves into attempting to force mystical experiences through secular practices. Not saying you can't execute the 8 limbs of yoga, anyone can do that and should, but contacting extraplanar entities should not be done. A level of caution doesn't cut it. If they need to talk to you, they'll find a way. Don't bug them. Gurus don't know shit. Rant over. Let's get on with the topic of today. I like to say I'm so smart because I learned 4 principles from a con man. He sold these principles as a means of manifesting one's thoughts and desires. However, a keen mind like mine saw these principles as a route to incredible learning capacity. Maybe that is what my heart truly desired. It is my sincere wish in disseminating this, allegedly taken from clandestine intelligence groups, that you might find your own usages for this information. Without further ado, let's talk about the first principle. Who do you listen to? Sounds simple enough, right? After mulling over those 5 words for more than half a decade, I can say those 5 words are quite laden with meaning. Kevin, we can call him, used this principle to bring into question the efficacy of gurus of the time, imposing that since he was given information from generations of master/mentor lineages, refined all the while, you should thus be listening to him. I disagree. This man, Kevin, taught you should learn from people who know what you want to know. I, however, know a principle from a newspaper publisher and congressman. Gilbert's Law. The hardest part of anything is that nobody will tell you what to do or how to do it. I've reworked this con man's first principle into the following. Who are you listening to? This is to say, check for biases in every assertion. The slave becomes the master. End of the line, Kev. I assure you, despite their origin, these principles are sound. The second principle is to ask yourself your current teachability. There are 2 factors to consider, and the first is to ask yourself what your willingness to learn is. Scale of 1 to 10, how willing to learn are you? The other factor is your willingness to accept change. 1 out of 10, ask yourself. Unless both are 10 out of 10, you will not learn a thing. Even a 9 out of 10 won't do. If you're not willing to accept change completely, are you really accepting it? Coming to the front of my consciousness now is the high likelihood these principles are correlated to the 4 base chakras and the alchemical elements. Mindfulness of a speaker could certainly be associated with the earth chakra, Muladhara, and contrary to popular belief, water is the element of emotion. Moving on. The third principle I know in theory, but expounding on the specific methodologies taught, well, I can hardly recall. This audio presentation is 9 hours long and sequestered. Following the release of this pyramid schemer from his prison sentence for consumer fraud, copyright strikes made this publication unavailable on YouTube. I did find an Iranian site hosting it, but as an archivist of this sort of information, I opted to secure a physical set of the discs. The third principle likely had the greatest impact on my philosophy. The third principle is about action, but more so the extortion of decisive action. Proposed is the idea of rational planning, centimating the role of action down to 1% of a plan. I'll retrace back to why I'm communicating. This essay is in regards to the concept of manifesting. I am presupposed to believe the overwhelming majority of spiritualists believe the act of manifestation is to be done by tapping into a subtle energy field and creating an input, all the while being ignorant to the definition of manifest. A manifest, in simple terms, is a ship's log, a record of where it has been and where it will be. In this day and age, we are more likely to be inclined to use the word itinerary, especially as a passenger. The title of this writing is a 21st century proverb created by yours truly. Based on an understanding of the cyclical nature of our experienced existence, I can say with confidence, that which has been manifested shall be manifest. I think it qualifies as an axiom considering its nature as self-fulfilling. The fourth principle is in regards to one's competency. You can be in one of 4 stages for any skill you would like to judge yourself on. The first stage is the easiest to get out of, but humility is required. Unknown unknowns are total blind spots. We might know we don't know something, but we would still be aware of the issue. However, an unknown unknown is something we haven't considered as possible. But as soon as hypothesized, the potential sucker punch can be looked for. That is why the first stage of competency is not knowing that you don't know. Unconscious incompetency. The second stage of 4 is conscious incompetency. Knowing you don't know something is a valuable starting point, as it gives the ability to begin learning. Applying the scientific method and trial and error can be invaluable for this stage. Conscious competency, I think, might be the best stage for teaching a subject. Obviously, teaching a subject helps you, the teacher, gain a deeper understanding of the subject. You'll still need to think about the task at hand, but it can be executed with proficiency. The last stage, unconscious competency, is having learned a skill to the point where you can enter a flow state at will and have accumulated so many tricks that attempting to give one out as a tip might be missing the point a little. I see unconscious competency as a point where you can clearly decide as to whether or not the particular activity or habit is helpful in the grand scheme of things. That's the real meaning of manifesting the life you would like to live. It will always be a work in progress. But the 5th principle is mastering the 4 principles. See, I didn't tell you about that one. I saved it to be a surprise. Now go on, you're the captain of your ship, master of the seas. Thank you.